Hello everybody and welcome to the next video on how to use Excel. This one we're going to have a look at formulas, some fairly basic formulas and how to use them. What I'm going to do for that is I'm actually going to use a little example here which I've already pre-populated to save a little bit of time. What I would like you to imagine, I'm going to insert a picture. So I go to the Insert tab, click on Picture, and then choose my picture. It's already there, ready and waiting for me. It's a bag of Skittles. And if I click on Enter, there we go. There's one bag of Skittles. If you imagine I've got a great big bag of Skittles, and I've handed them out to all of these people over here, John, James, Anna, Laura, Rustin, Sadiq, Aisha. And I've then shared them out just at random, and then I've asked them all to count up how many different colours they've got, and we've entered the colours into the spreadsheet like that. So for today's purposes, I want to do two or three things. First of all, I obviously want to know the totals. How many have each person got in total? How many different colours there are in total? And then I think we're going to look at what the mean number of Skittles that people have been given, and also the median, the mode, and the standard deviation, which is something that you will come across quite a bit in statistics that looks at the range of numbers actually involved. And then after that, we're going to look at a function called countif, which I'll come on to a little bit later. So, as we've already covered the adding side of it, if I want to know the totals, we talked about using the autosum function, which is up here on the top right. Click on that, and it selects a range of cells, which you may or may not have to adjust depending on exactly what you're doing. You press enter, and there we go. We've got the total there. So that is one way of doing it. Sometimes, for the easier functions, there are buttons like autosum that you can just click, but we can also type that formula in. So if I go to the next cell down, G3 for James, if I type equals, then sum, and you see a list of functions come up, which I can then choose. Obviously, the one that I want has come up at the top, and there's a little bit of a description there at the right. So if I then click on that, or double click on that, it then comes up and tells me what it wants. It says it wants the range of numbers, number 1 to number 2, etc, etc, etc. So as it's James that I want to add up, if I go to column B, cell B3, left click on that, move the cursor over to the right, move the mouse over to the right to the last cell, which is column F for orange, release it, and it's basically has put the range in B3 colon, which effectively stands for 2, F3, and then it just needs a bracket on the end to close it all off. I press enter, and there is my formula in the formula field, and it's actually done the job. And as we discussed in the last video, I can then highlight that cell, move to the bottom right to get my little black cross, and then go all the way down to here, which basically adds up for everybody. And I can do the same across here. So just click on the cell that I want, auto sum, it's selected the range for me, press enter, and then I can go all the way across here. So I've now totaled everything up. I've got a total of 248. So okay, we now have the total. So let's move on to something a little bit more complicated, which is mean, median, and mode. You can easily understand why I might want to know these figures. Who has the average number of, what is the average number of Skittles that I've given out? I can see that I've got 248. I could count them up manually, I could do a division, but seeing as Excel has a function, I'm going to use that function. Now, this is where sometimes you've got to be a little bit careful, because if I just type in equals mean, there is no mean function in Excel. So a couple of things that you can do. You could look it up on Google, or you could go to the formulas button, formulas tab, click on that, and then over on the left hand side you've got insert function. So if I click on that, it brings up this dialog box. Okay, and then if I then type in what I want to do, which is mean, and click on go, it comes up with a number of suggestions, one of which, if we look there, is average. Okay, it's not the correct technical term, and this is one of the shortcomings of Excel, and we will come across one or two things like that as we go through these videos. So average is the one that I want, so I click on OK, and then it comes up asking me for a range of numbers that I want to actually do this calculation for. So I can just come over here and just select those numbers, or the alternative thing I can do is just click on this arrow to remove the dialog box, come over here, select the first number, keep my left hand button down on my mouse, scroll down till I get to the bottom to Aisha in this case, and release, and then it's put the range of cells in there, and then I can come back over here and just click on the down arrow and my dialog box is back, and I can click on OK, and hey presto, there's the mean. So median, I could do exactly the same, but median is one of those where Excel actually has the function as is. So I can type in equals median, double click on that to bring up the formula, put in the range of cells by clicking on the first cell, left clicking on the first cell, scrolling down and releasing, putting in the close brackets, pressing enter, hey presto, we're there. The mode I'll do using the insert function again. So I go over to insert function, type in mode and click on go, and there we go, top one comes up as mode, so I click on OK. I'm not going to bother with putting the up arrows here because I can see the data. It's very useful to use these if you have a large data sheet and sometimes the data that you actually want to get at is hidden, so you can do this to reduce the size of it or move it around, but I don't need to because I can see the data that I want, which is there, and I just highlight the data, release the mouse button and then click OK, and there's my mode. So nice and easy. I've actually formulated those already, those cells already, to 2 decimal places. If I go down here to format cells, I could change them to 0, or I could remove the formatting altogether, but I'm going to leave them at 2. So we've basically got those figures there. Now standard deviation next. So don't know what it is. If I start typing equals standard, standardize, that's not what I want, is it? So I'm going to try and use the formulas button here, so insert function, and if I type in standard deviation and then click on go, not particularly helpful. So this is where Google might come in, and to be perfectly honest, if I am stuck for a function that I use, I just hit the cancel button, find my Google, and bring it up and just type in what I'm looking for, Excel command for standard deviation. Click on that, click on go, and there Google has come up with the Excel stdef function returns the standard deviation. So that's what I want, stdef. So I can then go back here and either use the equals stdef or use the insert function stdef and click on go. And there we go. At the top you can see the function. You can check that it's the one that you want because there is this little dialog box down here which tells you what it is that function does. Estimate standard deviation based on a sample. Okay, that's the one that I want, so I'm just going to click OK. It then asks me for the range of numbers that I want. I highlight those numbers, or select those numbers by using the mouse and the left click button and releasing it, then click on OK, and hey presto, there's my standard deviation. So that's 4 little formulas, 5 if you count the sum formula that we've done, either by typing in equals and then putting a range of cells in, or by using the insert function button and then putting a range of cells in. So going to move on now to the countif function. What the countif function does is it counts up the number of times that a particular value or particular piece of text occurs in a range of cells. So if we look at these cells over here, we could see, for example, that John has 4 blue Skittles, and if we look down, so's Laura, so's Rustin, so's Sadiq, so's Rasha. So we know that we've got 5 people with 4 blue Skittles. Now that's all right on a small piece of data like this. We could fill in each of these columns for every colour Skittle and for every different value that people have. But if you have a much larger data table, then that's obviously not going to be possible to go through and count each individual thing, which is where the countif function comes in. So again, you can do one of 2 things. You can either type in the function equals countif, or you can use the insert function. So I'm going to start off by showing you how to use the countif. So by typing it equals countif, and you can see that it comes up. So if we double click on that, it tells us range and criteria. So the range basically we know is there, B2 to B13. It then wants a comma, and this is the bit that I always manage to get wrong. It then needs equals, I think this is right, inverted commas 1. So we're going to look for the value 1 to start with, close inverted commas, and then put in the close bracket and press enter and see what happens. I've got a problem there, so it's not liking it. So what actually I think I need to do is go back to my formula up here and just edit it by deleting the equals from where it was, moving to between the inverted comma and the 1 and typing it back in there, and then pressing enter, and hey presto, it's done it. So you can see countif equals countif, open brackets, B2 colon B13 comma inverted commas equals 1 inverted comma close brackets, and you can see what happens then if you get an error. You need to look at the formula, you need to work out what you've done wrong, go back, just maybe edit it a little bit and put it right. This is another reason why I prefer to use the insert function, because it does it all for you, but it's up to you. So here we have our formula, and we could just go to the bottom right and use our magic little black button and scroll all the way down again, but it doesn't work. Okay, so we need to have a little bit of a closer look at that to work out what's gone wrong. So if we go back to the original cell, which was looking at the occurrence of 1, if we look up at the formula button, B2 to B13 is the cell range that we want. And when we look at it, we see B3 to 14, B4 to B15, B5 to B16, and so on and so forth. So it's not quite picked up exactly what we want to do. So what can we do about that, short of actually going in and changing every single one of those ranges? So let me just undo that using this undo fill undo button up the top here. We go back to this one here, and if we go back up to the countif bar here, if we put a $sign, that's the $sign, shift 4, between the B and the 2 and the B and the 13, let's see what happens. So I put it in there, I put it in there, press enter. It doesn't change the value that I've got here. So the formula now equals countif $2 to $13 equals 1. If I then go down here and repeat the little black cross fill operation, well, I've still got zeros. So, but when I look at the individual cells, I've now got the right range of cells, this B2 to B13 in every cell. But what's actually happening is I've still got equals 1 in every cell. So if we say stop in that cell there, which is B21, the 5 each, it's still saying equals 1. So what I need to do, and there's no way around this, I'm afraid, is go down and change everything to 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. It just takes a little bit of patience, a little bit of time, but once you get used to it, all I'm doing literally is highlighting the number here and then putting the correct number in and then pressing the enter button, and it's coming up with the results. Then I can just check that, making sure that I've got all the right numbers in the right places. Yes, I have. So there we can see, for example, that 5 people have 4 skittles each, and we could go up and we could count the number of 4s just to make sure that's right. So there's 1 for Aisha, 1 for, so there's a 4 for Rasha, so that's 2, 3 when you take into account Sadiq, and then we've got Ayodele there at 4 and Anna 5. So hey presto, that's what it does. So that's how you do the countif function if you know what the actual function is. If you know it's equal countif. If you don't, you can go and use the insert function under the formulas tab. Click on insert function, type in count maybe, click on go. It comes up with a list. Scroll down them. You can look at the different values, count blank, count, there's all sorts of them, but there's the one that we want. Countif counts the number of cells within a range that meets the given condition. That's the one that we want. Click on OK, and then the dialog box is slightly different this time in that it wants a range, so we'll give it the range, which is basically that there from C2 down to C13, selected again by clicking, left clicking, scrolling through and then releasing. So it's put the cell in there, and then we want the criteria. Well, the criteria, well, we'll start off with 1 and we'll click in OK. So if we then look at the formula and the formula button, it's done it slightly differently. It's not put in the equals and the inverted commas. So you could just type that in. But obviously, if we think back to the B column, the greens, it didn't put in the, the cell range when we copied it down, the different cell range. So we need to just put in the dollar signs up here before we copy it down. Press enter, and then we just go down like so. But again, we've got all ones, so we need to go through and just change all of these to the correct value. And again, all I'm doing is highlighting the value at the end, typing in the correct value and pressing enter. So highlighting the 1, it's 5 this time, so typing in 5, press enter. Highlight the 1, type in 6, press enter. I mean, you could kind of delete the comma, the closing comma, closing bracket, and then the 1 itself, and then retype it all if you wanted, but I just find it's easier this way. So I'm just going to do the 8, and hey presto, there we are. So we've got them all there. So that's one way of doing it. But once we've done it, if we want to do the rest of these tables for red, blue, orange, we can just basically highlight all of these cells, go until we get the little black cross down at the bottom, and we could just pull this across and then release it here. And there is our table. And if we look at any one of them, we'll see that yes, E2 to E13, it's got the right cell range, and it's for 4 each, and it's got the right condition for. And if we go through them, we can basically see that's what it's done. So once you've actually got the first lot, you don't have to go through the laborious process of changing the 2. Put the dollar signs in, change the condition to the 1 to the 2, and so on and so forth, and then just copy them across using the little black down arrow. So that's it for this particular video. What I would like you to do next, I'm going to put a copy of this spreadsheet as it was when I started on Blackboard. And what I'd like you to do is go through and practice doing everything that we've done during this video. By all means, go through the video and stop, pause the video and then go to your spreadsheet and carry out the operation that you've just watched. Rewind the video if you have to, watch it again until you get it right. Practice really does make perfect with this. Once you get the hang of it, it is actually quite easy to remember. You still make the odd mistake. My mistake earlier with the countif function, I will admit, was very deliberate so that I could show you what happened when a mistake is made. But we all make mistakes from time to time. So you know, just go through it until you've got the hang of it. Right, that's it for this video. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop the video now.